Hello and welcome to this new OpenSAP course, Guide to SAP S4HANA Project to Success. My name is Henrik Lutjohan. I'm a member of the SAP S4HANA Regional Implementation Group, and I present you this first course unit from Sydney, Australia. We, the SAP S4HANA Regional Implementation Group, are offering workshops to our customers, helping them to prepare for a move to SAP S4HANA. Some of our meetings take place before the actual implementation project. During this course, my colleagues and I want to provide response to some of the frequently asked questions we receive in these workshops. This is a nutshell course, which means that the complete course content is available from the moment the course starts. The course consists of 10 units. After each of these, you'll be asked some self-assessment questions to see what you have learned in that unit. At the end of the course, you can do a course assignment, which is based on all the content covered by the course. Doing this assignment allows you to earn points for your record of achievement and digital badge. In this first unit, we start with first steps when moving to SAP S4HANA. I'll give you a brief overview of the topics my colleagues and I will cover during this course. In this first unit, I'm going to share feedback to some general questions about SAP S4HANA projects. I'll touch on topics like the typical project duration and if it makes sense to wait before embarking on the journey to SAP S4HANA. My colleague Sheldon will cover customer questions around SAP S4HANA Finance. He will address topics of important changes and what changes mean for his existing business processes. The business partner concept and the customer vendor integration are major changes for most customers. My colleague Alexander will cover this area and how SAP tooling supports the transition in Unit 3. More customers are starting to take a closer look at the changes in the logistics space. My colleague Cosile will answer questions across the logistic area and give examples of benefits customers may want to consider when moving to SAP S4HANA. Some projects initially focused on the technical transition from SAP ERP to SAP S4HANA. Several customers approached us after the project because the business started to question the investment. In Unit 5, Doran will answer the questions around available innovations in the logistics space and differences compared to existing capabilities. This might help you to define a roadmap that includes changes addressing existing business needs. Moving to SAP S4HANA involves technical considerations, and customers are asking for guidance and how to best prepare for the journey. Gilbert will address these topics and share some of the lessons learned from the projects we have supported over the past years. The new SAP user interface is a key change and forms an essential part of any transformation journey. Jocelyn will share insights you will need to prepare for a project and what you need to consider making your project successful, taking advantage of SAP Fiori. SAP S4HANA opens customers new options to consume analytical information. Pierre will explain embedded analytics and how you can benefit from them. He will also address when this model should not be used and what you need to consider to best address your reporting needs. The intelligent enterprise is mentioned on various slides. In Unit 9, Jocelyn will explain what the intelligent enterprise is and what it means, and which first steps you may want to take to adopt them. In our last unit, Rohit will demonstrate some innovation examples and how these could help to address existing business needs. I hope the overview gives you a good impression of the course content. What is the right transition path to SAP S4HANA for me is a fundamental question for existing SAP ERP customers. It defines the approach a customer should follow to best meet their business requirements. A greenfield or new implementation, brownfield, system conversion, or a system landscape transformation, using aspects from greenfield and brownfield. I'll introduce the 5 key dimensions which should be evaluated to decide on the path to best meet specific business needs. My colleague Gilbert will look at the pros and cons for a greenfield or brownfield approach in Unit 6. The first dimension is the level of process re-engineering. Is your system well set up to support your current and future business needs? Or would a move to SAP S4HANA be a good opportunity to revisit existing processes and adjust them? Data availability is an important factor. The dimension selective data covers this important topic, meaning the availability of data in the SAP S4HANA system or another system and how it can be accessed from the end users. For example, if it's important to keep all transactional data in the system. It is important everyone agrees and it is understood where required data will reside. Legal requirements might be a driver for this. The existing system landscape may include multiple systems, and you may want to take the opportunity to consolidate them, or it might be an opportunity to move business units or regions into separate systems. This topic is covered when talking about the source, target, the system ratio. Some customers may want to revisit the deployment model of the existing systems, for example, to move some systems or lines of business into the cloud. In some cases, customers may want to move capabilities back to on-premise. This area is represented by the dimension on-premise or cloud. Last but not least important is the way the project is being rolled out. The type of transition defines if you can roll out the solution to groups, regions, countries, etc. in smaller drops, or if you must go for a big bang approach. In some cases, this might be a simple discussion. In some, this might take some time to come to a conclusion. The findings of these discussions should be visualized and presented to the key decision makers to ensure everyone buys into the outcome. Here are 3 examples to give you some idea. In pretty much every workshop, the question about the duration of an SAP S4HANA project is being raised. There are several reasons. One is to get some understanding of the reality and/or to validate this with the current thinking. On the slide, 2 types of projects are being shown. The first one is a system conversion, a brownfield approach from SAP ERP to SAP S4HANA. The second one is a new implementation, a greenfield approach for an SAP S4HANA system. Staying with the second type, the duration for the greenfield implementation depends on various factors. We have, for example, seen differences in the duration between new SAP customers and existing SAP customers. The project time of existing SAP customers tends to be longer. Customers seem to take more time to redefine existing processes and it takes time to discuss these changes. New customers tend to go with standard templates, which speeds up the implementation. The duration mentioned on the slide are based on project information we have gathered over the past years. It is based on projects we have supported. The times shown are from the start of the actual implementation project to the go-live of this first phase. We didn't include outliers, meaning very large projects or very short projects. We hope this gives a more realistic view and applies to most customers. The time for system conversions is on average 3 months shorter compared to greenfield implementations. The additional time in greenfield projects is often required to manage the data extraction, cleansing, and the data import processes. Although some customers have no plan to start a project right away, they still want to get prepared for the project, being able to execute it when required. The following 5 points are good starting points. Preparing your business case applies to any customer planning to transition to SAP S4HANA. You should be clear why you're going to do the project and what the expected outcome is. In case you plan to run the first part of the move to SAP S4HANA more as a technical transition, then make sure you explain when the business can expect changes and additional capabilities. It is important that the associated cost of the project is justified. In case you haven't done it, build your business case for transitioning to SAP S4HANA. In some cases, this can take quite some time to get prepared and approved. The quality of your master data is critical in normal business processes and especially when it comes to moving to SAP S4HANA. Some technical steps, like the conversion of customers and vendors, may stop your conversion project. It also has impacts on the quality of your embedded analytics reports. So, clean up your master data, especially your customer and vendor master data. In some cases, this can take quite some time. There are some steps that will help you to make a decision about your scope. A move to SAP S4HANA is a great opportunity to evaluate custom code in your system. Only take those programs forward which add value and are really used. At the same time, check how the innovations might help you to move back to standard or addressing certain business needs. So, gather information about your system by using the tools provided by SAP, for example, the readiness check, the business scenario recommendation, BSR. There are other technical tools as well. This will be covered in Unit 6. SAP S4HANA is a new solution, and getting first hands-on experience is important. It is valuable for developers to understand the new technical framework and have an opportunity to write the first lines of code. For functional consultants, it is important to understand the new innovations and get familiar with the new user interface SAP Fiori. We suggest to utilize an SAP trial system to gain first hands-on experience. The system itself is free for 30 days and comes pre-configured. Please note that there are costs. You need an account with a hyperscaler and they will charge you for running and storing the system. SAP provides a lot of tools to prepare in order to get a full understanding of a system conversion and if it's feasible, and to fully understand how long such a project might take, you will need to do a mock-up conversion. This means you will need to do a full conversion with all the required steps and changes. This first trial can take quite some time, but only then you will have a full true understanding of the effort involved. This means when planning a system conversion, run an initial mock conversion to confirm your business case estimates and to understand the full impact. This process may uncover several issues and take time. In some other cases, this might be a very quick evaluation. It is a good experience for the basis team to understand the tooling and procedures. I looked at the questions more from a functional perspective. My colleague Gilbert will look at this topic from a technical perspective in Unit 6. You will be able to find a lot of information around SAP S4HANA. From SAP side, and even customers are starting to share their experience, for example in dedicated blogs. I'll share some of the places we suggest checking out to get a first impression. The first one is obvious, especially because you're listening to an Open SAP course. So check for Open SAP courses to get a first understanding. SAP Help is another place to check out. The simplification list, features and functions documentation, get help to get a first impression about the changes. This is especially important for any consultant getting involved in their first SAP S4HANA project. So SAP Help provides important information on the changes between SAP S4HANA and SAP ERP, with this, for example, with the simplification list. Blogs are a very good source of information. My colleagues prepared several great blogs over the past years. They give an overview of various areas and on some selected challenges we saw in projects. Check the link if you want to find blogs from the SAP S4HANA RIG. The new user interface is a key change, and Jocelyn will cover this in more detail in her unit. The SAP Fiori Wiki is a very good place for anything related to the new user experience. So people looking for the new information about new user experience should check the information on the SAP Fiori Wiki. I'm aware that I'm repeating myself with this bullet point. Nevertheless, getting first hands-on experience is such an important topic that I want to repeat that the trial systems are really a good starting point for any new experience. So utilize the trial systems to get first hands-on experience. A question we receive more frequent since the start of 2020, should I wait before I start my journey to SAP S4HANA? Customers we talk to often just finished their SAP ERP projects or may not see immediate value in such a transition. The announcement in February that the support for SAP ERP was extended is another factor. People are reconsidering the timing of the SAP S4HANA project. From our point of view, the following aspects should be taken into consideration when planning your SAP S4HANA project. Every transition to SAP S4HANA includes change, which needs to be managed. The number of mandatory changes increased over the past releases. This means that projects may take longer and the complexity that needs to be managed may get higher. Compatibility scope can only be used until the end of 2025. It is important to distinguish between the announcement to extend the support of SAP ERP and the availability of the compatibility scope. This could add additional scope to your project. For example, you may need to include the transition from Elytra to the embedded SAP S4HANA Transport Management. Running the project today may allow you to run two projects, reducing the scope and the complexity of the project. Again, waiting might mean that the scope of your project may increase as a result. An earlier adoption allows you to better manage the pace of your organizational change and adopt new innovations. For example, most processes in SAP S4HANA after the transition today could run very similar to SAP ERP processes. This has some other challenges, but it allows you to manage the speed of change. The graphic at the bottom right-hand side illustrates the changes planned between an SAP ERP and SAP S4HANA system. I hope you noticed the change in the illustration of the SAP S4HANA system. You will see more new features in the solution and more changed functionalities. Some feature will remain. Some parts, like the compatibility scope and deprecated functionalities, are planned to be removed or restricted via contractual agreements. Again, this could mean that projects take longer and get larger. I hope you enjoyed this unit. We learned that each transition path has pros and cons. Make sure you select the transition path that best meets your business requirements. Keep in mind that the preparation of project tasks takes time. It will take time to prepare, and it might be required to run pre-projects. At least start preparing. A large number of customers have already moved to SAP S4HANA. Leverage their experience when preparing for your project. That's it for this first unit of the course. Please join Sheldon, who will present Unit 2.